some training. I just want to go ahead and thank our generous sponsor, Legacy Engineering.
Thank you all for coming today. We are very excited. Austin called us about sponsoring this. We said absolutely. We at Jacksonville right now, we still feel like has the most powerful permitting system of like the current old system of any of the local jurisdictions, but it is not user friendly. So we get lots of calls and they get lots of calls about how to do stuff. So like, we kind of do everything, but it can be a pain in the butt to use. So this system is a very, very long time coming and has been worked on in the different iterations of Tyler and this and that, and now we're here. And the previews we've seen of it are awesome. We do a lot of private inspections throughout Jacksonville on single family, multifamily, and all sorts of different projects and plan review. And as we do that, we're interacting with this every day, and we are just so excited about it launching, so excited about the work that's done, and so excited about everything that comes. So I don't really have much to say. I mean, I imagine most of y'all are familiar with Legacy. If you're not, we do geotechnical engineering, materials testing, and which is like density test, compaction testing, and as well as the geotech materials testing, private inspections. And we've been around. I think the Ellis family now is just about 100 years. Been working in Jacksonville on construction projects and engineering. So 4 generations here working on the First Coast. So anyways, enough about me. This is Eric. He's our account manager. He works with our existing clients to help keep them taken well care of and happy. Savannah is our content manager. Thankful she's here recording stuff for everybody. And Karen and Sarah are going to join us later. They're part of the PPI team that helps with scheduling in the office and that sort of stuff for when people call in to schedule things. So, no further ado. Welcome today.
We're here to talk about JAXEPICS. What's next? Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to go over a little bit more details a little bit, but then I'm going to throw out some dates for you guys. So, these are the dates for the launch of JAXEPICS. Is the weekend of November 10th through the 12th, that's Veterans Day weekend. That is going to be our soft go live weekend. And I'm going to explain what that means in a little bit. And then our big go live weekend, that's going to be December 15th to December 17th. So it's like I said, it's the weekend. What will likely happen, Friday we're going to be locking down bid, and then we're going to start our conversion and start getting things set up. So the site will actually be live sometime through that weekend of December 15th to the 17th. But really you can think about Monday morning, the 18th, that would be your first, the first real access to it. So that's soft go live. Again, think of it Veterans Day weekend. And we don't know how long we're going to keep the site up for, but probably at least through Thanksgiving. So in your heads, if you don't need to remember dates, just think Veterans Day to Thanksgiving weekend. And what do we need for the soft go live? Company registration. So right now that you guys sign in to bid, you sign in with that company ID and some kind of password. The passwords we have, sometimes people use their company ID as their password. Now this is going to an email-based login. Okay, so it's more secure. And with that email, we do have now security requirements for our passwords. I'm sure you've seen them all over. 10 to 12 characters, letters, numbers, all that kind of stuff that you have to do in a password. So that's why it's very important to get on that site and do that registration so that you can log into the system. So what that'll be is that you would have a page that you'd land in, and again, all this information will be given out over the next few weeks. I'm sure we'll be hanging signs down in the lobby on the second floor in Idball. Josh will be sending out bulletins. This will all be there for your information. But basically that you get on there, you would verify your email. We'd be sending you a password setting email so that we verify that your email was good, you set your password, and then you're ready to log in. So, and also on that soft go live is verify your company information. Is when you look at those profiles, what we're doing, this data is coming from bid. So again, I think Josh had already mentioned to you folks, is getting up onto your profiles now in bid to make sure that your emails are correct, to make sure things look correct. But this would also be your good time to make sure that it's still correct in the system and that anything that maybe gets screwy with data conversion that could have caused a problem. And then also on that soft go live, submit permits. Now, these permits that you're submitting, these are not going to be live permits. But this is going to give you the chance to see what it feels like to submit a permit. And in our new system, as you see as we go through it a little bit later, when you submit a permit, again, we're trying to automate a lot of those requirements, a lot of those things that we know you're going to need, setting fees, setting agency requirements. So when you submit a permit type, you should already get a good idea of what are my requirements gonna look like? What is this gonna look like inside of the system? And like I said, so the company information, that we're gonna take that you guys do from the soft go live, and that would be the registration information that we would have when we do that go live weekend. But your permits, those are, like I said, that's just gonna be something to play around with. We might open up a little bit more functionality. We'll see how that goes. But again, the key thing there is just to get that idea, get comfortable. And also this will help us see if there's any issues that we still have to work out. We have that month to take care of them. It'll also, I'm sure, be very helpful for bid staff not to have the entire world trying to go register on that first Monday and any kind of issues that come up with that. So now I'm going to talk about data conversion. So the data that we're bringing over from bid. All data is coming over from bid. Okay, even data that's in bid from the mainframe days, 2005 permits, stuff like that. So, I know a lot of this stuff here may seem bad, but let me explain this. Missing required fields. What that means is that over the years, we have had new requirements for permits, and new fields have shown up that had not existed in the past. Okay, and or stuff has been required that was not required in the past. So I think you guys have felt this pain along the way whenever we've added new fields in bid, where suddenly you've got a permit now and it's like, wait a minute, it's telling me I need a project name and I've never needed a project name before, my permit's now inactive and I can't schedule an inspection. We are looking to address all of that in JAXEPICS. So when I say missing required fields, what that would mean is that on permits that have already been issued, okay, they're already in the pipeline, we're going to assume, that's a good word, we'll hear that a lot, we're going to assume that any required fielding has been addressed and that's being dealt with the public, has already been addressed and dealt with for the approval, or it wasn't required at that time. So on permits that are active that have those required fields, we're going to kind of go and set those to like default settings or basically indicate that, hey, this wasn't set, get past that, right? But on permits that are still in the pipeline, whether these are, in review, agency review, return for corrections, we are leaving those required fields required, so that either bid staff can go in and put that information in, or you guys can go put that in as you're working on your permit. So again, that is something that we know that's going to happen, but we have plans for that in place. Dates and employee info will look wrong, be missing. What we mean by that again is that bid does not track everything the best way that we need it to going forward. So for example, agency reviews like say concurrency DMG. When someone does a review, you'll see a comment down there, Blaine has approved concurrency, right? But all that has is that comment with Blaine's name. Whereas in the new system, we're going to track the actual user of Blaine has done that agency review. But there's really no way that we could go through all those comments and wire them up to users. So that's when we say that employee information will look wrong, because you're going to see stuff that would say maybe approved by the system when you know full well someone else did it. It's just because bid had not been able to track that. The other thing about dates might look wrong. Bid does not track dates for everything that is done in the system the way that we need it to. So whenever there's dates where our system needs to have a date, it might be a weird looking date of say January 2000 if we do a default, or it might even be that December 16th weekend when the data conversion runs. So the important thing is, it's not that current information will suddenly be switched and be wrong. It's that in this kind of transition period of the data conversion, this is just how we're putting those requirements in. And then some legacy data in comments. So what that would mean is that any kind of old data that we might have that we just can't put into the new system for whatever reason, it might, could be any number of reasons, right? We're basically just going to dump that data into a comment. So on those existing permits, you might see fields that aren't going to be filled out, but if you look at a comment, it would kind of have that information. I don't know how many of you have ever had the occasion where you try to open up a permit that starts with an 05 or an 04 or something like that, and you get an error on the website. And you put in a ticket, I get that ticket, I route that to Chuck, Chuck calls you up and says, okay, I've printed it, so forth and so on. That is not going to be the case anymore in JAXEPICS. We are able to open up those old permits because we're able to handle those missing requirements better than bid can. So, JAXEPICS features. We're going to get into a live demo in a little bit, but just wanted to show you some of our features, some of the areas here that we're going to be approving upon for you. So this, I'm going to let this play, and this is just going to show you a little bit of the changes that we have here, because as someone said, it is very hard to use. So what this is showing you right now, contact information. We have project contact ownership. Now that's all lined up into a nice contacts tab, where all that information is kept the same. This is our property tab. We can't really scroll these pages. Now we can. Now we can show you more information. when BID was designed, it was kind of designed to look and feel like a Windows application that BID staff was using, which that meant the website has not been able to grow as browsers have gotten better. What we're seeing here, the spec fields, this tree grid, I can see one tree grid at a time. I'm doing a window door permit, I have to go to spec 4. Now all of our specs are all lined up, and they all clearly explain what they are in the individual sections. And you can see right here as plumbing goes by. Any permit like plumbing or building that has plumbing information, these sections will be dropped on there. So when you're filling out, say, tree mitigation, I can see all these trees now. If you're filling them out on a building permit or a site work permit, it's gonna look the same. That was a very important thing we're trying to do here, is get the look and the feel to be consistent. This is showing how agency reviews are kind of split over 2 tabs. Now they're all lined up, easier to see. You might be noticing a theme as you're seeing these screens, that when I look at specs, or I look at agency review, or now we're showing how plan review looks, that everything kind of looks the same. That is our goal, very much intentional. So that if you are someone who always does electrical permits, but now you have to do a mechanical permit, it's gonna look and feel a lot of the same. And you can see that consistent approach. All these things that all kind of start looking up, and they're all gonna start clicking on you and making sense. This right here is showing like our inspections. And you can see, we list them so many times, what does that mean? You know, all this kind of stuff can kind of get garbled. Now again, lining them up. Trying to make that clear image to you guys, and see that we can see our information, we can see it clear. That's one of the things that we are seeing when we do this data conversion. There is data in BID that we really can't pull out today in BID that we're gonna see for the first time now. Our fee screen. BID only kind of set up really for one fee with kind of a plan route fee on the side. It gets messy. Now we have multiple invoices available on your permits. And again, this one is showing you how those little collapsible little sections and tabs can go up and down. You can do this on all of our stuff. Trying to give you that better, clear image of your data. So another issue that we're trying to work on, and in fact I was having to do this just the other day, is that communication between software communication, between the Windows application and the website. Too many times, there has been cases where a permit has gone into pending payment, but the reviewer, oh, I need to fix something. In the time it takes that reviewer to put the permit back, you guys are lightning quick out there and you're paying that fee. And then the reviewer doesn't notice that the fee has been paid because the Windows application did not update it. And then what happens is then Chris has to get involved, and I have to talk to bookkeeping and tell them we have to issue a refund. I don't know anyone here who's ever had to have a refund for a payment. You gotta fill out forms, it takes 2 weeks. Stuff like that. That's what we're trying to avoid. So one thing we came up here was live updates. What you're seeing here is this thing was recorded on one machine while I was doing approvals on another. And you can see, as I'm doing approvals on another machine, it's getting updated in real time. So this is that communication we're talking about in the software. And when I did my last approval, you can see how the permit already changed the status and moved to in review. So now as you guys do your work out there, and the staff happen to have that permit open, they can see your changes. As staff is doing work on a permit you have open, you can see their changes. This actually was not to dog on any software companies, but this right here was one of the main reasons why we had to end that contract with Tyler. Is one of the issues was, we were trying that JAXEPICS, that stands for Enterprise Permitting Inspections Compliance System. The Enterprise is all of our software under one umbrella. So they all talk to each other. So later on, we're gonna be bringing in civil plans and concurrency and fire inspections, all these other apps. But one little simple thing was a problem for us with Tyler was the customer portal that you guys would be using. If you have not submitted a permit, staff cannot see that permit back in the office. Which means if you're having any issues working on a permit, staff cannot pull it up and help you and look at it. So that to us right there was, that alone could have been the end of it all. Because we know, I know, all of us here that have supported, that communication between BID staff and you guys is very, very important. I don't know how many times that you probably had permits open in front of you, staff has had that same permit open, and you guys are trying to work through issues. That's that kind of visibility that we want to see. That's the kind of connectivity that we need. So like I was saying, seeing the data like never before. What we're showing you here, this is just some kind of sample data. This right here, as you'll see when we talk about our dashboards and our widgets, this is one we created called Orphaned Permits. And unfortunately, this is actual permits that are orphaned in our system. And what that means is, it is in the city's hands, but there is no requirements. There is no reviews. So nobody in the city knows that they're supposed to go look at this permit. Now we can see that. So the minute a permit somehow gets a little bit wonky, it'll show up on this little widget that people like Chuck, people like Josh, reviewers can see. So as soon as your permit might suddenly walk off on its own, stuff happens, we're gonna know about it. This here, this is test data, so don't think that this is all that we're doing. But a simple little permit stack widget we created. So looking at permit residential single family new building. We can now see into that data how many in the last week, 30, 180, 365. How many of these types have gone into return for corrections, plan review submissions? One of the things that Mayor Deegan had with the transition committee meetings is they held these meetings for the public to come and talk about different areas. I attended one of those that was for, I guess, economic development, basically talking about permitting. And I heard an idea at that, which was some other agencies do things where kind of like the plan reviewers can get like a grade. Like I'm an A or I'm a B. But if I'm an A and you know that, hey, I do my work really, really well all the time, you should probably know that you're not gonna have problems with me. And why can't you expedite my permit because I'm a good guy, that kind of a thing. I don't know that we'd ever able to do that. But by being able to see our data like we can now, we can identify that, hey, maybe a certain permit work type combination is going into return for corrections more than others. So maybe there is a problem with this permit type. Maybe the requirements are a little bit too confusing. Maybe we need to talk with the public more to find out why does this particular permit type seem to trip so much of us up all the time. But you can see how we can also take this kind of view in the data and give that to you guys to look at your company information. So that when you log in the system, you can see what your stats look like. And you can self-monitor yourself, see where you guys might be dropping down, or where you might need a little bit of improvement, or where you're rock stars. So that you then know, hey, we've got this. So like I said, we probably wouldn't be able to ever do anything of, you're a pretty good person, so we're just gonna rubber stamp. But what Chuck's folks, Josh's folks can do is, hey, I've got a permit coming in for review. Typically this permit doesn't have problems across the board, and this company is very good with that. Maybe we can now give that to our young plan reviewer who's just learning out because it probably won't be a complicated permit. So those are the kind of things about how we can start using our data to start leveraging things better. So with that, we're now going to move over to the live demo portion. Okay, so this is the landing page of JAXEPICS. I've already logged in. I'll show you, I'll back out here a little bit and just show you that when you guys come here, this is where you would log in, your email and your password. You can imagine we've got a little forgot password button here. There will be a button here for that company registration for the soft go live. For city employees, we have a little bit Microsoft authentication. This is bringing me to a dashboard. I don't want to go there just yet. So that's kind of like city employees will be able to be registered, basically how we log into our machines. So again, this is another security thing that we're trying to do to get better all across the board. So this is the main thing. So I'm going to pull up something that we haven't seen before. And that is going to be a private provider profile online. So I'm just going to randomly pick a company. No particular reason why I'm picking Legacy at all. Sponsorship has its advantages. Okay. So this is bringing up the profile for Legacy Engineering. So yes, for all of us, show of hands, private providers out there in the crowd, you will now have a nice login to the system, and you will see more information about your company than you had before. Not just that little inspection window that you're used to getting in the bid. Another thing I would mention for private providers is the whole COJ account, that is going away. So you will be able to log in with your own email address, you will set your own password. So you will not have to do the annual registration, get that renewed. New folks coming in, you won't have to go through the external user agreement. I'm sure Matt Kilgour will be very happy to not have to keep shepherding those for you all. Because again, this is what I was saying, is that we're trying to make this system easy to use, easy to access. So pulling up here, Legacy Engineering, real quick, oh, that went faster than I thought, so I don't have to show you that part. So, right away. So, I'm sorry, this site was moving faster than I thought it was gonna be. So, shown here on private provider for this profile, again, that information we pulled over from bid. Private provider profiles are gonna be a little light coming up here in the new system, just because we don't really have that much data in bid to pull from. But you'd be able to set your location, like a mailing address or any other kind of address types that you'd be able to set up. Contacts, we've got a private contact in here. That would be on permits, but also we're looking at having in context of, like, say, who's your billing manager, or who does scheduling, what have you. Think of the contacts tab as a Rolodex, right? So that if staff needs to talk with you, and this again, this will also go with contracting companies, that bid staff has a way of, hey, who should I be talking to at this company about different things? Again, get that information in the system, get that communication going between you all. I'm sure there will never be a single case violation for any good folks in this room, but if you had any of those, that's where you see it right here on your profile when you log in. Resources, these are all of your inspectors that you have here, and you can see that we have your primary listed. So again, now you're getting that view. Instead of it just being who has been scheduled on inspections and seeing your list, now you have your list, and now you can manage it. And we have the ability, we haven't put it in yet, but I think I heard this come up the other day, we can actually capture your license information if you want to have that in the system for your inspectors, just like we do for contracting companies. So that is just something else that would be coming for you good guys in the private provider world. But this is what I was going to say before about permits, where I thought this was going to take a little bit of a load. We are working on data conversion right now. So we have a lot of things turned wide open inside of the system. So as you can see, pulling up these permits, these might be all the company permits we have, even finalized ones. But just to see that we loaded up 6744 permits. And like I said, I was expecting that to take a little bit longer, but that went through pretty good. So now, like I said, you guys can see your permits. Ones that you've been associated to, not just with scheduled inspections. So if I just pick one of these, and click that little button, open up that permit. So now this is what we're saying. We're looking at this permit here, that this is one of Legacy's permits. So as we saw in the little demo, or the little screen there, if I go to the contacts tab for this permit, I can see my company, I can see that project contact, I can see my business owner with the property owner, and then down here I can see my private provider. So you can see that, again, you'll know where to look for things. You're not looking up here and here and down here in that corner. Also for private providers, we now are going to use your names instead of just the little tiny initials, which gets to be a problem because some of you have similar names, and then us trying to find a unique 3-digit, abbreviation for Legacy, or pick something else with an LGE, that kind of a thing. So now we're going to have your names on everything. So to come down here on this permit and see our scheduled inspections, or the permit inspections that are going on, any scheduled, there is no scheduled here. But to show how this would work, again, if you were just to be in this permit yourself, go to schedule an inspection, little clear option right here, request inspection. So the inspection that I'm requesting, the date, you also have the ability to schedule and pass your inspections, just like city staff does. I'll just put in request note, and I'm going to request that inspection. So now when the system requests this inspection, you're going to see when it loads back up, it's going to be under the scheduled inspection. And again, we give you a little bit of details here, just like we do today. So if I close that out, we can now see the inspection is scheduled. And something that came up during our UAT testing, going to perform the inspection, the request note that the public puts in, or you guys put into that, will be available right here to be seen. We have that in other areas as well. But so like I said, this is the little screen for performing the inspection on the permit. So if we come in, we'll do a quick little inspection. Jumping around on me and my mouse. Pick your start time of your inspection, pick your end time of your inspection. We'll pick a 2-hour one on that. Save it. Now, I'm logged in as myself, so this system does have the ability to perform inspections on behalf of somebody else, or to reassign it to yourself. So I'll say, yes, I'm just going to do this on behalf, just to go through, and then now we can see that inspection has been done. So now we have a check, that requirement has been taken care of, and now down here you can see your completed inspection. So hopefully this is an area that has been improved upon a little bit, so that things are a little bit clearer on that. There's something else I wanted to show here, and if I, let's see. Okay, I don't have anyone. The agency reviews, this is the other part. So, today, again, hearing these back and forth from the good information being provided is part of that forum, is that prior providers, whether they're doing plan review or inspections, is, hey, my stuff is done. We're just waiting on the city. Now, what we're able to do here is, what we want to do in the system is tell a more accurate story of what's going on. And so today you can see here on this permit, you have that private inspection final that you'd be used to, and then the final. And you can see here how John Ellis has been assigned to both these as the default inspector. And I know you might be thinking, well, the final, that's supposed to go to Josh. But we're not gonna do inspections the way we have to do it in bid, because bid is set up where, hey, I need that final to end my permit. What we're looking at with the new system is, what are my requirements to fulfill for that? So in this particular permit, the inspection is being done by the prior providers. So you guys will do the final inspection. And then the way the city will go and say everything is good is this COJ prior provider agency review. So this would allow the city, sorry if my mouse keeps scrolling down here, is this will allow the city to know, hey, and we'll show you a little bit of these on dashboards, what the city can see. But now there's a clear picture of all the inspections are done on this permit, but what's holding it up is that COJ private provider review. And this really wouldn't be a review, and again, I know that name might be a little misleading and we can change that. But this is where the city can then make sure that all the other documents are needed, anything else that's needed on this permit, and just to approve it. This is the same thing you would see for those of you out there who do private provider plan reviews. That's another thing, is the way that bid looks is that you guys are submitting stamped plans that are approved. But it looks like bid has to go in there and do a final approval. Now, we know that landscape reviews and fire marshal reviews, those still might have to go on during, for private provider plan reviews. But if you were looking at a permit where everything is done but that final, it would look like the city is the one who's holding this up, which I guess we are, but it would look like the city is having to do a plan review. So rather than it being, because bid makes that be that way, rather than having the city perform a final plan review, we again would have that agency out there. So that the agency would do the approval. That would show up on someone's list. This permit is all done with plan review, now it's time for you to do the approval. So what that would also mean then is for those folks that are just involved in the plan review stage, if your plans have been all approved, now that permit can be sent back to the customer. Because what do we need for a permit to go active? We need a contractor and you need to pay. And generally that's not gonna be the private provider plan reviewer's job. So now you can have your work finished off and that permit transferred back to the property owner. And the city staff can say, hey, we'll happily approve this permit once you give us the money and once you tell us the contractor who's gonna be on it. So then it is out off of the prior provider's queue. So it looks like you guys have done your job in your accurate amount of time, and now the customer sees that you have done your job and all the plans are approved, and now they know, hey, this is my responsibility now to go get that contractor signed up and to pay my permit fees. I'm gonna go over here for a little bit, because again, just to show off some of the loading here, pulling up our friends at Universal Engineering, just to bring this up because I really did like this. So I'm just gonna let this profile go and pull that up for a little bit. Because I wanna show you, again, the load. I don't know if people are familiar, or several years ago, we had a problem with the big website where it was crashing when you're trying to load it, The way that, this is what I was trying to show before. I know I jump around sometimes in my discussion, sorry. I wanted to show before that the permits are loading on this screen. But the profile has already come up, and if I go over here, I can already start seeing my people. The way that bid does things is that when you log into that website, bid kind of loads everything it's gonna need for that trip. And the way we like to say that is it puts it all in a backpack, and now you're walking around with this gigantic backpack. And it'll have every inspector that might ever get assigned to an inspection, every status, all this junk that you don't really need until you need it. So in our new design with the new system is we load things independent of each other. So that if I come here in a profile, you don't need to wait for everything to load, is we're gonna get you on the profile and then they'll load things as we get them. So when you go to the different areas, like say looking at your resources, if all you were trying to do to come in here was maybe update someone's phone number, why would you wait for those permits to have to load first? I'm gonna check down here to see if my permits have loaded, and they have. But this is what I'm gonna show you. While I've been talking, we loaded 129,000 permits onto Universal's profile. And the system didn't yell at us, it didn't crash, it just did its thing. So hopefully, that would kind of make you guys feel better the way it made me feel better. That the performance of the system, the stuff that we can handle, is pretty remarkable, I think. And certainly better than what we have at bid in that regard. So that is the prior provider. So now I'm gonna log in as a company, and I'm gonna pick one that I set up with our friends at Pulte. So again, I'm simulating logging in as the company. And now when this logs in, now you're at your company dashboard that has been reworked. So this is stuff that we're familiar with that you've seen in bids, right? When you log in a bid and we show you well, I guess you could call it a dashboard, but we show you the permit that needs your attention, we show you your 120-day list, and I think also fees or inspections that might be scheduled for the day. So as I scroll down here, you can see that, and again, I had to set these up because Holt didn't actually have anything due. So I had to go and set up this invoice and see permits needing your action. So right here, again, you've logged in. Same thing as with bid staff. We want to put the things in your face that you need to do, right? Your work for the day. So pending invoices that have to be paid, permits that need your attention because they're in for return for corrections. And then here's all the scheduled inspections that you have right now for this company. And again, we're seeing some synergy here between private providers and construction companies. And then the permits over 120 days. So I want to talk about this one for a minute, because this looks scary. Oop, my little mouse again rolling away on me. Is this permit right here is at 1900 days. This is actually converted data. This is actually in bid right now. And this is what I mean about how we're getting to see our data in ways we haven't seen before, good and bad. So if somehow that permit and some of these others with these high dates, they have gone away, bid can't see them. Another thing with bid it could be is that because of bid's data constraints, we can only kind of show you 2 years worth of data when you go online in your searches. So if you search for permits that are active on your profile, you're only going to see 2 years worth of data. Which, again, when the system was conceived, who would think that, again, I like to joke sometimes, dumb developers, right? We're writing good code, but we don't know what your world is, and we're learning as we go along. But you can see where someone might think, why would a permit be active for 2 years? We know that they can be. So when looking at data constraints on bid of saying, oh, we'll cut off 2 years because this won't ever be a problem. But you can see now it's a problem. So if you were to go search for that permit, that L18 permit, you would find that in bid, you'd find it on the website, but it's not showing up on anyone's list. So this would be another thing that you'd be able to see of, for the first time, whoa, I've got some outstanding permits going on. I'll say again, when we had the COVID lockdown, and right-of-way permits were not online up until that point. When we put right-of-way permits online, again, we saw some of this data for the first time. We had someone call up because they paid a fee that had been due since 2014. But they paid it and their permit went active because that's what it was supposed to do. But again, that was a, 5-year-old permit at that time. I doubt they were out on the road waiting around for 5 years to do their work. So again, the good and the bad. But getting that view into the data, this is gonna help us clean up our data and get it back to where it should be. Because again, another issue, Chuck will tell you, that comes up, people out there trying to close on a home. And the mortgage or insurance company says, I can't because you have open permits on this house. I see a roofing permit is still active from 10 years ago. A friend just asked me about this the other day. Now that we can see this data better, we can go and fix these permits now instead of it waiting until it gets to the time where a mortgage company is yelling at a property owner that you can't buy that because it looks like your roof is still half done. This is another thing that came up during that transition meeting. This is another widget that we've created, required documents. What this is letting you know, because I've heard that complaint, right, is I didn't know that I needed this document. All right, is that you've been working on my permit for a while and then ready to be issued, and then you tell me I need this document, and now I have to go out and get something, a JA service, letter of availability, notice of commencement, what have you, and now I'm delayed by a day or two. And we know little tiny delays multiplied can add up to big losses, right? A little thing from the feedback that we're getting from bid staff is something as simple as when you add inspections, as we'll see here in a bit, you click a button, you add an inspection type. They hit a button, add an inspection type. To us, that seems pretty fast. I can put 5, 6 inspections on a permit, no problem. But talk to some of the pros down there in the building office is, no, I need to be able to select all the things and add them all at once. So when you look at our staff downstairs, our way looks clean, it looks sharp, and no IT guy would say this is wrong whatsoever. But by not allowing those multiple selections, we're costing some of bid staff maybe 30 seconds to a minute to a permit. They do 50 permits a day, I've cost them an hour. So it's really trying to find these little time things, right? Is because again, we are now all in a time world. We've got that plan review count, we need to get your permits out. So that's another thing that, again, like I said before, trying to do with this system. So now when you have a permit out there, and we'll talk about what the stop status and permit status mean here, But this is letting you know these are all the documents that are required on any of your permit and where your permit is. So now hopefully you are not surprised by anything as that comes up. So what I am in now, again on Pulte, is I'm just gonna go through and quickly do a permit and kind of show you that process for doing this. And then pretty much at that point, then open up and then get some questions going and some good back and forth, hopefully. So I've got here the permits and I've started an application. So starting a permit is a little bit differently than we've done in bid. In bid, you would pick your type and then you would go and get that form. And as we've seen, a building permit has 4 specs today. And if you're doing a window door permit, and if you're doing it for the first time, you're gonna be clicking around trying to find where do I put in my window door permit. On a fire permit, we have 1 field that's usually required over on spec 2, and you've got it all the way over here. You wouldn't think you're looking for that. Sign permits, I don't think even call them specs. They call them overview, and that's where your spec information is. So what we've done now is we're gonna ask, we call it the 4 questions, but the questions may change depending on what your answers are to the questions. But this is helping us to generate that proper permit form for you based on what type of permit you are submitting. So the first question we ask, what is my permit type? Building permit. Residential or non-residential. And I want you to look at the top, where as we ask our questions, you can see these will change. So because I'm gonna pick residential, because I'm doing a single family new home, you can now see these other questions have popped up because now it knows what I just said, and now it's getting my other questions ready. So because I said residential, I now can populate my structure type with my residential structure types. So I'll choose single family, then I have my work, I choose new building, and then now we have a summary of what type of permit application are we looking to generate. So I'm gonna hit that, it's gonna do its thing, and then it's gonna pull up the permit screen as I keep going down into the news window. So now we are here on our permit. And you can see we've landed on the overview tab. And because I am logged in as Pulte, we already know Pulte is the company on here. And we can already see some activities happen, but I'm gonna talk about activity at the end once we get a little bit more information in. So we look at our menu here on the left. And we can already see that we've got a question mark here, location must be set, contacts, we've got some missing contacts, and we've got some missing spec fields. So the idea here is that letting you know where are you gonna find those missing fields, those required, that information that you need. And you're gonna see as we go through the demo, you're gonna see these numbers and stuff change as we fill out information. So we're gonna put an address here. I'm gonna pick my address. All free to come over. If you like the demo, you're all free to come over. If not, then please don't come throw ice at my house. So I've set my address here. So we're giving a little bit better view into the different address information. We're picking in, splash a little color on the site is throwing in, from our good friends at the property appraiser site, is grabbing the little parcel images. And then so, again, if you think about, like I said, the logical order we try to do with this permit, right? You've told us what kind of permit you're trying to give us. You told us where. And now the next important thing is who. So, company is already on this permit. So that already defaults to that. So the other required information here is going to be a property owner and a project contact. So I'm going to go and select property owner. Now, I had already set myself up on other permits as the property owner, so this is defaulting so I can pick myself. If you were to come across an address, which a lot of you will, because you're going to pretty much be starting this off, is there is an option for, if it wasn't me, or about change the owner, or to have to set someone up from the beginning. I will say that, unlike with bid, property owners will be able to log into the system, and they will be able to do the same things, more or less, that you guys do on permits that is in their control. So over time, we will build up a property owner database, if you will, but it's very important to note that JAXEPICS is not the source of record for property ownership. So you don't have to worry that the information you're putting in here is going to be like recorded over in property appraiser or get a deed, all of that kind of stuff. It is really just a quicker way inside of the EPIC system to allow you to put those permits in to not have to keep typing in that information over and over again. So now I'm going to hit add on this, and now we can see that Chris Callahan, the property owner, has been added to this permit, and the contacts are down by 1. So now I've got to go add a project contact. So project contact is something you're familiar with. That's usually in the top right of the permit, and it's who should the city contact about this particular project. Your company might have multiple project contacts, you may just have one all the time. But you can see here that I went to go add a project contact, and I have to fill out that information. I'm going to take a step back, And I am now gonna click on, and let's remember this permit number in case I get lost. But I'm gonna go click on my company profile as Pulte. And this is something that I was showing before with Legacy's profile as far as adding contacts, is that project contact. So on Pulte's company profile right now, I'm gonna go add a contact, and I'm gonna add a project contact. So we'll put in Chris Callahan. I know this will seem weird to the folks, but whatever information I were to put in, that is what's gonna be displayed when we see this in the next little bit. I'm sure a lot of people, we put in email addresses as a required field in bid. And I have so many N/A for email addresses. Because if you think about it, this is who you're supposed to contact for this project. I'm probably gonna be at the site, and I'm not gonna be checking email. I want you to call my work cell phone. So we are not looking to make fields required that you guys won't be filling out, because we don't wanna have bad data put in. So whatever information I were to fill out about a project contact is what the information is required. Obviously, first name and last name is required, but past that, it's whatever you guys decide to put in. So right now, I'm just gonna say, let me put in a mobile phone here, and just put a number in and hit save. So now this is saving a project contact on my profile. So now, if I go back to my permit, and we'll do a little, and we'll try it, we'll see. And if I go to add that project contact now, you can see it's got the one I just created in the profile. So again, we talk about that back and forth, that live information. I had left this tab alone, I went somewhere else, I came back, and it is reading that information. So now when I do my permits, I just would select Chris Callahan because he's my project contact, and now you can see project contact is filled out. So as you go through permit after permit after permit, you do not have to type out that project contact all the time. If you have multiple project contacts, you can select the ones. This again might be something worthwhile during that company registration period that we talked about. So now my contacts have all been filled out. We can see I have no more warning signs here, or no more numbers of what's required. So again, tell me about things up front before I get too far in my permit. Now that we know what you want to do, where you want to do it, and who's doing it, that pretty much covers all the ways that we would tell you no if there's any kind of code enforcement issues going on. Whether the property has a problem, I know no one here will ever have a problem with code enforcement, but whether a company out there has a problem with code enforcement where they're on some kind of hold. So this would tell you right now, before you fill out this whole permit, before you submit it, before you hear from the city a week later you have a problem, now you're gonna know right away. So now you maybe wanna go get that addressed as soon as possible, instead of having to wait those few days for the city to tell you. Again, all about getting this information up in front of you guys as soon as possible. So I'm gonna go through and just fill out just some quick information here on this permit. Again, what I like to say when I fill these out, I do not know if the values I'm putting actually make logical sense to you, so please keep the laughter down to a minimum. The structure area grid. This is a little bit different than what you're used to. Today, we ask you for enclosed and unenclosed, 2 boxes. But as you saw, and I'm sure you're familiar with, on that fee tab, there is this grid next to the fee tab that has an area grid, where we have 1 to 4, we have above 4, 1 story undivided, unenclosed. That grid is actually the data that determines your fees, in most cases, not the fields that you guys fill out. So you would put a value into your unenclosed space and your enclosed space, but your fee's not gonna calculate. Then staff has to go in and type that number themselves. You can see where that could then become a mismatch, where you put in a permit and it's not showing you your proper fees right away. There was no reason why not to let you fill out those 4 fields yourselves. You know if you're building above the 4th floor, you know what's unenclosed, so you have the power to fill it out yourself. So that's what we're talking about here with structure area and these little grids, of why this is gonna be a little bit different, but it's getting that better information into the system. So I'm just gonna pick out some information, just again type in, and you can see when I type in square footage, just like it does today in some areas, it will then do the acreages for you as well. So if we're down here talking about land area, and I don't know what the square footage of an acre is, I can put a 1 in the acre, and it'll put in the square footage for you. So we'll go through that. So now, before, like we said, plumbing. So we'll say the plumbing is public city, building code edition, we're familiar with that. Occupancy load, I'm sure it's not 12 people at 12 pounds, but okay. No 21 bass. Frame type, wood frame. Again, what we show you here is that the fields that are required, you see a little asterisk in them. If I am in the field and I leave, then we turn red of, hey, you might have missed something. But you can see, for example, cooling tons is not marked required because I haven't answered this question. So if I say yes, now cooling tons becomes required. Again, use that data, use the system, and not just throw required fields at you that you may or may not be using, so we get a bunch of NAs, NAs, NAs. Water heater, AC, water heater, AC. I'll tell you, these are a couple fields that already, when you look at your permits, you will see legacy bid data in here. Because these are fields that are required, but do not have a lot of good data way, way back. Roofing. You may know, if anyone does commercial or does single family new homes, the building permit encompasses the roofing permit. You do not have to pull a separate roofing permit if you're doing a single family new home, like you might have to do with commercial or some other scenarios. But there's no way in bid to put in your roofing information. So obviously we're going to inspect that roof when we inspect that house. But as far as the roof slope, all that stuff goes, the only way the inspector, I guess, can get access to that would be in the plans. But because of our new lightweight system, we try to make this as highly configurable as possible, which if I haven't said that before, pretty much everything you're seeing as far as where things should show up, where things should be required, your fee calculations, this is now all manageable by staff through the front end. So it's not like Josh says, hey, Chris, we have to go and add this new field where we're going to have to track, or this fee calculation has changed. Oh, well, that's going to be 2 weeks. We have to do a code push. Or Matt Kilgauer comes to me and says, I've got a new private provider company. Well, that's going to be 3 weeks because I have to do a code push because we have to update a menu file. Everything now is more lightweight, so we can move things around. So it was just a matter of configuration to say, hey, why not put the roofing section on a building permit? So if it encompasses a roof, they can fill out that information now, and now we can track that. I can't make any promises for the future, but stuff like this might actually end up leading to hybrid permits, where you might not have to pull 2 or 3 permits to do the same thing. Maybe we could look at, can we actually fit them all in one? But again, that's more of a whole big business practice, and we'll see how the system goes and what we can do in the future. So don't mark that down. As Chris said, we're going to get hybrid permits coming out. But then we have our tree mitigation, as we said before. And so the other information I'm going to get into when we fill out stuff. So right now, my permit looks good. I'm going to go and hit submit. Now, remember when I surprised you guys with this a couple months ago where we had to start doing this agreement, and it was tucked down there at the bottom and people couldn't find it. So again, see, now that we have this power and we have an actual website instead of a Windows application masquerading as a website, we have a lot more power to show this information in better ways. So I am doing my permit submission agreement that yes, I'm building a house with 12 pounds and 12 people max. So this is going through, it's doing its requirement, and now we can see the permit has been submitted for review. So at this point already now, you can see a 4 has popped up here for agency review. So this is letting you know, hey, these are the agencies that have now become required. So what we're talking about is we know we have that sufficiency review, that zoning, DMG, and concurrency reviews. So this was something that we were talking about is we do that sufficiency review today, the permit comes in intake, and then they're looking to make sure everything is good, and then they move it over to agency review. Bid is best described, I guess, as a status-based system, okay? And what we mean by that is staff only knows how to kind of find their work sometimes based on the status of the permit. So for example, in the case of zoning, DMG, and concurrency, they only know how to see the reviews when the permit is in agency review status. And for anyone who's ever had a permit before, where concurrency would put down that status of plan review only, because we need a mobility fee. And what that means is that we're gonna allow this permit to go forward in review, but I'm gonna need some stuff from you on the side for concurrency. When that plan review only permit gets in review and in review is done, the plan reviewer has to wipe out Blaine's approval of plan review only, set the permit back to agency review, because that's the only way Blaine can find it. Another example of this is window door permits. Window door permits were able to be submitted online before we did electronic documents because of how small and lightweight they are. They would come into a status of waiting. But then when we did electronic documents, we came up with intake to be able to differentiate between the two. But now we're getting window door permits where they're uploading electronic plans with them, and they come into intake. The only way that our window door guy knows to be able to find window door permits is the permit clerk has to change the status to waiting from intake. You can see how that could be confusing to you guys to see why is my permit jumping all around. And you can see how that could really slow things down. And again, that could lead to that missed handoff. That's an area we're really trying to work on, is try to cut out that manual steps that have to do to get people their work. So now what we can do is, as you saw on those little dashboards before, these requirements will now all show up that these are due in the appropriate people's dashboards to see their work. Now, zoning, DMG, and concurrency. They may want to wait until sufficiency is done, or they may look at the permit now and go, yeah, okay, sufficiency hasn't looked it over yet, but I can clearly see from what they're trying to do zoning that no matter what they work out, they're going to be good. I'll go do my approval now. So this is allowing for more work to be done concurrently. Because really what we're ultimately trying to get here is to a task-based system, okay, instead of a status-based system. So when your permit comes in, it might be, and again, like I said, we're trying to put these four together, but it could very well be in the modern time, if you think of it, sufficiency comes in, that has to be done first. Then concurrency, zoning, DMG. Those three have to come next, but they can happen in any order. And then when those are done, now plan review has to go. So really, you can see how it's really kind of creating a workflow, and that's what we're kind of moving towards. Now, when I was talking before about those stop statuses, you can see here about intake. And this is something that will become a little bit clearer. It's going to seem confusing at first, I know that. And again, we get into questions about it. But we're in this transition period of where we think we can kind of go from a status to a task base, is we are using those statuses, the way to think of it as we have, is rungs on a ladder. So if you think of the normal course of your permit, right? It's going to be not submitted, temporary today, intake, agency review, pending review payment, in review, active, finalized. We know there's return for corrections in there, but that's the basic life of a permit. So what we do is we consider each status of what we call is their stop status, which is what these guys have. And what that stop status basically says is, when do I have to have this done by? So these four have to be done by intake. But if we had on this permit, say if I did it like downtown where that DIA approval has to come on, well that DIA would have a stop of in review. So now you can see where now you can clearly see when you look at your permits, like if I go back here now to Pulte's dashboard, or where's my dashboard? I don't want to get away from this permit, but I go here, click on the dashboard icon. Now this is what we're saying down here when we talk about required documents, is that this notice of commencement, the stop status is active. We need this in order for you to get out of active, and your permit is active. So you know right now that this is going to be holding you up. But right now, this one we just put in, which, wow, like, yeah. I did this on purpose for the demo. Is this permit we just put in, you can see it's still an intake, but the stop status is showing active. Now you know right away, hey, I need a notice of commencement. So if you didn't have this already when your permit was coming up, this is on your dashboard. Every single time you log in the system, it'll be telling you, don't forget, don't forget. So, are you guys set up on this permit? All right, so that little live, the live updates we were talking about before. So, our wonderful developers right now, and this is the part, fingers crossed that this works, what they're gonna do is they're gonna go through, and they're already doing it, so that's wonderful. So you can see while they are doing that review, and I'll scroll down here to see this a little bit before, you can see Ryan has just approved sufficiency. So that turned yellow. So again, I'm, hands off, if you want to call this a magic trick. So as they go through and do the other approvals, you can see how this changes, like I said, live. And then we'll see the permit goes through, so concurrency has just gotten approved. Zoning and DMG, zoning has just been approved by Jason. And then DMG is going to get approved. And when DMG gets approved, what our system does and says, hey, is there anything else holding us up in intake? No? Well, let's try to walk forward. Once that DMG review gets done. Do we have Taylor on standby in case we're having a little hold up?
Yeah, the drop downs are a little slow.
Okay.
There is.
There we go. So you can see now we've moved forward and we're in agency review. But there was nothing holding us up in agency review, so now we're in pending review payment. So the other thing now that my system is updated, and I'd also, as I hover over this, it also gives you a little tooltip updated by so-and-so at that time. When we have massive updates or something really changes on that, you would get up here on this bell notification letting you know, and this is also something we'll talk about as far as system information later on. But you can see how my invoice now suddenly showed up with a 1, and that's because my plan review invoice is now being marked required. So hold off on this for 1 second, guys, don't send it out. But this is the other thing to show off here is the permit fee. So again, before, where that plan review thing would be a little tiny thing down in the corner, 90 bucks, now it is clearly, hopefully, more clear to see the different invoices and having those details on them. The other thing is, what we showed over there, is permits can sometimes get complicated when it comes to the fees. So what we're trying to do, and forgive the English is not perfect, but on each of these different fee items now, you can click on fee amount calculated, and it's gonna tell you why we calculated it this way, and then what it all came out to be. So you can see here down at the bottom, because I put in a 1,500 square foot house, you can see ultimately that turns into 638, times 1,500. I will say a lot of this was written, we put the rules in and then kind of reverse engineered the English off of the rules, so that's why it's still a little choppy, but hopefully this would also give you a better view into how did my fee get here? That's another question we get from time to time. If you were to take a look, say, at the landscape fee, well, that's 12% of your permit fee. So you can see how some things are fairly straightforward, other things could be complicated. So I'm not going to go through and take the step for doing a payment right now. So I'm pending review payment, so if I can ask the guys here to go ahead and void my plan review fee. They're going to be sweethearts, so I won't have to pay a plan review fee today. So now we can see that that's voided, and I think you might have to manually move my status forward. And now it's in review. And you can see here, the only thing that had changed from after doing that void was the status change, so that is why the status bar is now lit up yellow to bring that to your attention. So now that we've got in review, now you can see more requirements that popped up. And this is what we're talking about as far as those documents go. So I've got here my in review JA letter of service availability. That's now popping off over here because that is needed for me to get out of in review. Whereas my notice of commitment being required is still hanging back. So if I go back over here to the dashboard for legacy and I hit a little refresh on this, now somewhere inside this right here in that permit, you can now see that letter of service availability is now shown up as a required document on my dashboard as well. So if I was now to say, well, let me go and give them that JA letter of service availability, little menu button we hit here, hit my upload document, and I just have a site plan PDF. We don't have to worry about it being correct. The correct document, but I'm now going to hit upload, and this should be going and adding to the system. And so if you could do verified on that first, on the document. So when documents come in, they come in the status of submitted, and this has now just been changed to verified. So what does that submitted part mean? So we can put in our requirements on documents in ways that we haven't done before. But we can't just approve the document of JA letter of service availability without knowing, in fact, that is what that letter is. So when you submit a document, it'll come in with a status of submitted. And then its staff's job is to take a look at that and verify that this is indeed what that document says to be. So it is not approved at this point, but you can see now about how we can use that submitted to then move the permit forward or return for corrections, even in post-active revisions. Again, I think all of you today have probably gone through a case where you've done post-active revisions. How do you get us documents on a post-active revision? You have to email the documents to a plan reviewer because there is no way for us to put permits up onto an active permit from the outside world. Now you can, and that's what happened here. So now this would be someone's job to just verify it. So this is something that, like, say, the permit clerk or a gatekeeper could do. And this is something also you could take a look at is, again, you work with that plan reviewer where you can't get that document in, you have to email that plan reviewer. So that plan reviewer has to keep checking their emails to see that you just gave me this one document so they go in there and prove it. What we're looking at inside, and again, I'm not going to speak to say for sure, but do you really need that plan reviewer who, yes, they worked on your whole plans, they know what you're doing, but do you really need that particular plan reviewer to look at a letter of JA service availability and just know that that's good? Probably not. So by those little dashboards, those widgets, we can now have permit clerks or empower other folks to just look for documents that have come in on permits, that are in submitted states, for them to go in and verify and then maybe approve. So you may not even need to wait on your plan reviewer to check their email. It could just be those clerks just saying these documents are good. So if you can go ahead and now approve this document for me. So you can see that's been verified, and now you see how quickly that changed and now it's approved. So now that that's approved, you can see that my menu 1 requirement has gone away because we fulfilled this requirement. But now we have plan review stuff, assign initial to somebody. So again, this is the plan reviewer, the plan review piece you've seen before. We've got our initial, we've got our final. What they're doing right now is they're going to be assigning someone the initial, now Ryan Rucap. So now you can see, now you know who your person is, and again, it is just happening that fast. Can you delete the landscape review, please? Been showing you a lot of yellow, we're now going to show you some red. So when something has been removed, we highlight it in red. And again, that tooltip will be there and show us who did it and why. Removed by John Tyler. So now if you guys go through and just pass those approvals and get us get that invoice going. So again, what we're hopefully seeing here is this back and forth. If you didn't have this permit open, by the way, it won't show yellow when you come up. This is just if you have stuff open. But hopefully what you're seeing here is that it's almost like we're sitting next to each other, right? I mean, I know we are sitting next to each other, but when you're out in the world, this is that communication. This hopefully stops all those car crashes that can take place between, like I said, different things getting approved, not approved, back and forth, payments happening. So now you can see they did our approvals. My permit has moved into pending payment, and now my invoice is due. And again, I'm not going to go and pay this, so if you guys would void that and get me active. So what they're doing right now is voiding out that invoice and move that permit into active. So now this one might take a little bit because what's happening at this point of going into active, it is generating those documents like your permit document. And if that holds up, just manually go through on that. And so that's another word when I'm going to say, well, this permit, whoa, that went fast. Okay, let me go back and see that we got that document. So under printed documents, you can see now that we have the section generated document. So I'm going to click on this, and again, this format is being worked on. Oh, that mouse is being changed. But what I wanted to show here under this generated document, this comes up from time to time today. We say like, hey, I need my certificate of occupancy for an old permit. Or when was that certificate of occupancy issued? The way it does in bid today, we enable the print button for certificate of occupancy and certificate of completion when your permit goes finalized. So when we say when was it issued, we're kind of holding it on that date we set when it was finalized. But if you needed your certificate of occupancy for a 2-year-old permit, now for whatever reason, someone in bid staff is going to go print it today. So if anything got weird and changed in that permit after the fact, we're not really showing the document that existed 2 years ago. So you can see how that can be somewhat of an issue. So now what we have is generated documents. So when this permit just went active, it went out and it got my permit, it created a PDF of it, and now it's uploaded into the system. So when I click that view button, I am looking at this permit that was generated at 10:10 a.m. today. Same thing would be for any of those generated documents that come out of the system. The printable documents, these are ones that are not going to be so much time sensitive. They can be generated over and over again, such as, say, the job card that you have to print out on your site. So again, this is trying to keep a better hold of that information. So now that my permit has gone active, we can see that I have a 100 documents, because now that notice of commencement has been required. And if you just want to go ahead and remove that requirement for me. And then now we have our inspections that are out there, and we show you our default inspectors on that. So this is one thing I wanted to show as well here, as far as hopefully improving that communication, between city staff and that. Anywhere that you see an employee's name, you can click on that name, and it's going to open up a contact card. So if you have questions about your inspections, well, then Renee's the person to talk to. But if you have questions about that plan review, you click on Jason's name, and you're going to see Jason's contact, Ryan. This also extends to private providers. You inspectors on private provider permits, you click on your name, they will see your contact cards as well in the system. So that's why it's important to get that information now. So you can even see where we are hoping this will help the public communicate to us. You private providers, you contractors, hopefully the public has better communication with you all too on the projects that you're all working so hard on for them. So on this one, we have our inspections here. So as we showed before, I'm gonna go ahead and request this inspection. And actually, let me just show you if I try to request that final. This is another thing we're trying to work on, is it's telling us, hey, that inspection there is marked required and that has to be done first. I don't have any in front of me to show you right now, but the same thing when you had sub permits and that you can't schedule, like say, your final on a building because maybe one of your subs has not been finalized yet. Instead of the Price is Right game where bid just tells you, hey, a previous inspection hasn't been done yet. We're actually gonna tell you what the permit and the inspection was, so you don't have to scroll through and find the one permit this thing is talking about. So I'm gonna go here, request my framing. Put the date requested in. We can change that out just like we can today. Weekends, of course, holidays are all off. I'll request that. And I can't request the final, but go ahead and perform that inspection. And again, I'm looking here and I can go and cancel my inspection. I can view that inspection request. And I have started putting down the framework, or we have started putting down the framework of having that request note and other stuff found there. Because again, that was something that brought up about seeing those request information on those inspections. So John Tyler is doing that inspection. We're already past it. But if you want to also go ahead and just schedule and complete the final for me, just so we get those other documents in my document requirement. You can see here moved away, inspection going on, being removed out, this permit's going through. So while they're finishing that off, the other little areas, now that we've done a bunch of stuff on this permit, is to show off the history. So I've come down here to the history tab, and I've just, again on our grids, if you didn't see, if I did this kind of quickly, I'll go back here, come back down to history, is these little grids, we do have you options of filtering out the grid by rows. So I just opened up to 100, but you could, have 5, make it easier to scroll through. Again, part of this, trying to make this an intuitive and helpful design. So if I now go through and look at the history of this permit, we can see what Pulte Home Company did. All right, I created my permit, and then you can see what the system started doing. Well, because you created that kind of permit, the system knew, hey, this is the stuff I have to put on, this has been required. And you can see the permit's jumping around on me because we're working on it right now. And this is updating live, if you will. Well, not if you will, it is updating live. So system created the invoice, then you can see what Pulte did. Then you can see the system marked these requirements based on what I filled out. Then Pulte submitted the permit. You can see the guys who did all these changes and approvals and all this kind of stuff. I uploaded the plan, then documents were verified, stuff was approved. Inspections being requested, inspections being approved, and even while I was talking, I already had this screen open. You can see that it went active to finalized while I had this open. So again, hopefully you're seeing that communication back and forth. So now I have myself a finalized permit, and we can see my certificate of completion came in. Of course, certificate of occupancy would be there as well. And now if I print this, now we have that document as it stood in time. So you'll have that forever. But again, if someone came back 2 years later, they're going to open up that same exact PDF that you were issued that day. Inspections are taken care of. We still have that final out there. Maybe the schedule didn't update. It's not too bad. So at this point, we're now at 45 minutes left. So that kind of is what I had to kind of get us all. I know it's a lot of information I just threw at you in an hour and a half. But now this is where I'd like to open it up to any questions or anything else we want to see. I guess show of hands. We'll go first. Yes, you.
Do you have a vehicle for submitting debug requests, or if we notice something with the system?
Very good. So that information, that'll be coming at a little bit later time. But one thing I would say is that, again, all the different communications that you have for the different staff to talk to, please still do that today. But I didn't show this off, is that on the main page, just like we have a bid today, we have an announcement section. And this is a much easier, updated one than we have a bid today. But when we do that soft go live, there will be a lot of information posted up here. We'll also be posting information up on the bid website as well. But that kind of information about who to contact for bugs and whatnot, if you actually get into a crash type of bug, where something in the system goes down, you will get a screen of like, hey, call the ITD help desk, that kind of thing, to report an actual computer issue. Most other things, what we like to do is kind of gets filtered through Chuck, because then he can help work with you guys to see if it's system's doing something wrong per se, or if he can maybe get it to you a different way, so that kind of get you that information right away that you might need while we work on maybe a possible problem, behind that. But that was an excellent question. Yes, sir. And then I saw you in the back. I'll get you next. Yes, sir.
During the soft live opening, do you have to go to the JAXEPICS? Is there going to be a link from the bids?
So that information that's still coming out, as far as what exact URL would be, is something that we will definitely be posting on the big website. Like I said, Josh will be sending out those bulletins. We'll have signs up, I imagine. But to let you guys just know what some of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes as well, is we are also doing on the site coming up in a little bit, we'll be doing some load testing on the site to see about that performance. So basically what we're doing as far as that load test goes, I think we do about an average of about 1,000 permits a day, I think, in the system, of permits being issued out and submitted. What our load test is going to simulate is 1,000 permits being processed in an hour. So that'll kind of tell us where we're looking performance-wise, and then what we might have to do to beef up servers in the back, add more processing, that kind of thing. But we feel if this system could shoot through 1,000 permits in an hour, then, that's a whole day's work right there. So, like I said, the problem with that, though, is that that site is also being used for load testing. So we just have to work out just where we're going to direct that traffic for that. But you could pretty much imagine that it would be either jaxepics.coj.net or something, relatively close to that. But all the information will be coming out. Back row, yes, ma'am, you had your hand up.
Can we surmise that this is going to improve cycle time with plan reviews?
First, I love the word surmise, so thank you for that. And yes, I hope so. The question for those in here is, can we surmise that this will improve plan review times or cycle times? I personally hope so. I think staff has already seen where they could definitely get improvements from on this. I would say simply the better way of putting information in front of people's faces is that will definitely cut down some times. But also what we're going to find is, and we've already kind of seen this as people started testing it, is using the system in ways that we were not thinking of. And coming up with ways of stuff that they want to leverage out of it. Is, for anybody who remembers, retired now, Ricky Smith, permanent clerk supervisor downstairs. Ricky Smith, I almost put his name up on the slide, he knew more about bid than I did. He could do things in the front end that I had no idea how, and I can look at the code, and I don't know how he did things. And so that's kind of the thing, we used to joke with him about trying to make this website Ricky-proof, so that everything that you needed to do was there, so he didn't have to hack out for you guys. But that's kind of the thing, is that what you see with really any system is once it gets put in the hand of the users, they're going to start interacting it with the way they need to, and that's that feedback we want to get along the way, right? So even from city staff, even from you guys, the public, is, like I said, that little thing I talked about the inspections. We can look at a sleek interface where I hit a button to add inspection, I see my inspections, I add it, I see my inspections, I add it. But we need that feedback from staff to say, no, I need to be able to do all these in a row. One of our earlier UAT sessions about having to open up the permit to schedule inspections and needing a screen where I can type in a permit number because I might be scheduling 20 roof permits or 20 roof inspections for this apartment complex all on the same day. So that's kind of that real world scenarios that we get back and that we can then work on. And the important thing, again, like I said at the beginning, is by this being a in-house developed product, we are with you every step of the way. We are not leaving town and trying to go sell this to somewhere else. We are not saying, hey, I hear you, Jacksonville, but the same software is used by 50 cities, so I can't just change this thing for you because that's going to impact everyone else. This is for you guys, and we are constantly going to be working on this and constantly, improving upon it. And really, as I said before, permitting is just phase one. The other phases coming in down the line, like I said, civil plans, concurrency, PICS, MCCD stuff will come in, the fire safety inspections that we're doing. All of that functionality will eventually become in the system. So yes, our whole goal here, or our hope, is to improve on the times, and we think the software will help. And I will also say that other folks in the city, like I said, from hearing those mayor feedbacks from other conversations we had, there is a lot of looking at other areas of where we can improve those times. And in a lot of cases, it's because seeing what this software can do. And for good or bad, as Josh had mentioned the other day, BID has been around for 17 years. You can have staff who's been working here for 17 years and knows this business in and out, and they've only ever used BID. So when it comes to, I've got my business and I know that in and out, sometimes we only think of what's possible because of what we've been doing for 17 years. And that I get requests and they're asking me for stuff of how to make the manual process in bid happen over here. And it's like, well, why don't we just do it this way? And that changes everything. Like I said, that simple little thing, if you think of that document, if the only thing that is holding up your permit from being approved is one little document that most anyone else could probably look at downstairs and approve, the fact that that person can now see that document came in, as opposed to you emailing one city staff member that document. So little things like that, I think we're going to claw back a lot of hidden time that is being lost just through the course of normal operation. But yeah, great question on that. So 2 hands go up. You.
I have 2 questions. One, is there going to be a limitation to the file size and type that we can upload?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so currently we do have a maximum file size. We can configure that, but just for our system, we don't want, sorry, we can't take all of your 1 gigabyte PDFs. And then, like we said, file type, it has to be a PDF right now. Again, we can control that, so if staff comes to us and says we need such and such file type, we're gonna have that available.
And yeah, so, what we're talking about there is about file sizes. So yes, there is going to be a limit as there is today. However, one thing I would say is, while the other thing to think about with those file sizes, right, is that some of those have to go into other software to be stamped and approved, and just those things can bloat in that. So in some areas, when it comes to, like, say, your site plans, while we could have on a website where you could upload a 3 gigabyte file and we could take that file in, it's then to work with it in those things, and that's where it slows down. But there is, of course, now that we're broadening out and using modern technology and all the interfaces, we could look at having those files that are absolutely that size, and they have to be that size. We could look at having those connected to, like, say, a Dropbox or something else like that, right? So we can give you other avenues to easily identify to get us large files in, if we have to have them. But really, if they're going to be processed, that's kind of why. And you said you had 2 questions.
Yeah, will there be a helpline or a number to call when we're just trying to navigate through and need to know where something's at?
Yes, so there'll be help information on that. One thing, thank you for taking that, because I kind of glossed over that. If you guys saw at the beginning of the little demo where we're doing little screens and you saw the screen moving, we are going to have little tiny help videos all throughout. All right, I don't know, I'll say this personally, I was able to change an oven light the other day because of a little YouTube video. So why not have, don't snicker, okay, you're all contractors, okay, that could be, okay, an oven light for a programmer is a big deal. But why not have those tiny little videos everywhere that you find them, or little tiny areas, right? So, like if we were back here or pulling up a permit and talking about these specs, and let's just say, oh, grab one here that has roofing information here. But whatever, I don't have something great to show in front, but let's just say roofing, right? So if this for some reason was complicated, having a little tiny link here to a little YouTube video of me, so I hope you all enjoyed my voice today, because you're probably going to hear a lot of these videos. But just doing what you were seeing there, kind of the demo I was doing, click here, click here. Now, those videos wouldn't be able to go into the why of it all, like what is the ordinance code of why a setback has to be, so forth and so on. But as far as how to put that information in, yeah. So like a company registration, that'll have like a little 1-minute video. We weren't gonna do like a giant long video, because you're not gonna really get that. But a lot of short little ones, because again, think of where we are in this modern era, right? Unfortunately, things are becoming TikTok and Instagram, and we like little tiny quick videos and not reading so much. So again, this would also explain or demonstrate how we've evolved since we started this project 5 years ago. Where one of the things was that, and you will see it still, is, oh, we can have these little help areas, all these little things, and a little bubble, and it'll pop you up to your help guides. But who's gonna read all that? So, but if it's a little video, again, oven light, I don't know that I could have replaced that if I had a book that showed me a diagram of an oven. But having a guy turns a thing, I can turn a thing. So yeah, so that was definitely the goal.
To expand on the documents, everything that we need to do is under the documents tab, like we already upload now versus waiting to say, hey, you need to put this up, hey, you need to put that up.
Yes, is that, that question is about documents and about document tabs and how we upload. And yes, today is that, again, this permit that I grabbed, we already see we have some out there. So that's the thing, is that in bid, right, is we've done away with that weird, I don't say weird, props to Ed Holzbacher, is the document section of bid today with all those different submissions. And then we have the current folder at the bottom. Is you know, over time we see, like, you know, now we got that in practical use, that really doesn't work out all that well. It's hard sometimes to find documents. So, but again, that's how we kind of had to do it in bid. And those submission numbers are confusing because the submission numbers for documents today are the day that you've uploaded them, not like, say, the plan review submission. So if you had started a permanent bid today and uploaded a document, and then came back tomorrow to finish it and upload another document, it would be submitted to the city with 2 submissions already for documents. So now with documents, again, they're kind of grouped by those stop statuses of when we're going to need them. But now there's the section of the document, and then the document's been uploaded for that section. So if I had to add one that didn't exist before, because like, hey, they asked me for, you know, some kind of letter or whatever, and I'm going to put in correspondence. If I hit that plus document type, we'll see who I'm logged in. Okay, I'm logged in as an admin. Oh, I logged myself out. So you can believe me on that one. But yeah, so if you add that document type on there, and then that's where you hit that upload button and upload those. Let's see, I want to get back to that right away because prove that I could do that. But yeah, so basically that's the thing, is that's how you would upload those documents. They're going to be grouped together, and hopefully it'll show a clearer picture of, hey, these are all my site plans, and you can see the dates and the times, rather than going, was this in submission 2, or was this in 8, or was this in 9? It'll tell that story. So yeah, if we go to documents, try this again. This could just be a permission thing, but if I do correspondence, might be that we don't have anything wired up to correspondence, but that's all right. We'll assume that'll go through. I could use one little bug in the demo. That's good luck. I'm sorry, you had more follow-up on that? Yes.
Then on your fees for like, where you break down all the fees costs per permit.
Yes.
Would that be the same for tree mitigation? Because right now it's like you don't have a breakdown of like this is what's classified. Will the tree mitigation break it down further?
Yes, so, where are we at here? So specs on that. So today, like, you might not have seen it in bid, it's kind of hidden. Down below on that tree grid, we kind of do the little fees there. And the fees can kind of be complicated. Let's see. Where we talk about them in realms of like ordinance fee or the 328, that's kind of confusing, right? So yeah, better fee descriptions. But just like today, those fees would be up on the invoice. Now, like I said, I don't know if that added it to the invoice. We'll take a look and we'll see. And Article 25, look at that. Developer give me that look up the front. So yeah, so I just added this in again. I just said the descriptions need to be better, but this is showing you what those descriptions are. But yeah, this is definitely something that we could clean up so that you can clearly see that. Because again, I kind of find that was a little complicated today in bid because you got those fees down below for trees, but then they're also up in the fee grid. So yeah. Yes, over
At
here.
what time do you think that the 10 set plans will be like submitted through here? And then also you have your planning portal where you submit like your PUD verifications, rezoning applications. Will all of that be incorporated into this portal as well?
Yes, that question was asking about civil plans, that kind of uploading. Those applications are slated for later phases that hopefully will be next year. I'll say that the next phase right now that is being scheduled to begin early next year, hope to have that out by midway through next year. That would be the PICS application. Just mainly because of that one is that there is some real big software restraints on that one, kind of like bid as well. So that kind of is one that needs a little beef up right now. But that's another thing I'll say about the civil plan thing. When we were working on this application, we called it at the beginning the bid rewrite, right? But really it is more than the bid rewrite. It really is this enterprise solution. So I'll tell you this, is that in those 2 years, maybe 2 to 3 times, we kind of just tore it down after we started building it because we didn't like it. I know in your world they frown upon building something and tearing it down and trying again. That's why we made demo permits. But so what that taught us and what our goal was there is to make this site not only easy to maintain, but also easy to develop and grow. So when we're talking about civil plans, right, what is a civil plan but a series of spec information of I have to upload some documents, the plan review, I don't have anyone here, and then I've got to pay some fees, and there's some approvals. So all we have to do, again, all those rules, everything I was showing you, all this dynamic engine. To put it another way, you cannot go look in our solution anywhere and see this form. There is no building permit form in the system, in the code. There is a permit form, that knows I selected a building permit residential single family, so let me go in the database and let me pull up all of these fields. So if we simply add in the civil plan table and the civil plan fields, and then wire them up to show them when we want to show them, this is going to help us develop these next modules. So while we've been working for 2 years of rewriting bid, we've also been working on what is it that we need to grow and have the city go faster and have these applications take off. And I'll say this also that yes, there are some other great exciting things coming down the road with AI stuff, BI, business intelligence, some really good data stuff that you're gonna start seeing your data like never before, and that's kind of across the city as well. And yes, for those that are interested or curious, it is fair to say that AI did assist in the development of this application, is that we started using that, playing around with that a little bit. And again, that is another push that we're having in ITD of how can we incorporate more of that to get some of this code out quickly, to get stuff, a little bit better. Really is an exciting time right now in the world of IT. There's some really good stuff coming out. Yes?
Can you sign up for email notifications about a permit?
So I almost, I did gloss over, that is available to the public, right? Anyone logged in. So this was something I did not show off, and I can't believe I forgot this, is the favorite of a permit. So at the top of a permit, there is this little star, and you can favorite. And then you can decide what about this permit do you want to be notified about. And so what you'll also see on your dashboard is that there will be a widget for favorited permits. This is what, when we design this, we like to call the mayor's permit, right? It's the mayor calls up and says, hey, what's going on with this permit? And Josh or Chuck can go and favorite that permit and then keep that one in front of their face so they can see what's going on with it. But we talked about before about how, hey, one person doesn't have to be that person you send documents to. But again, in computers, we try to do, redundancy is big, right? So while there could be a dashboard widget out there and anyone can see those documents, your plan reviewer who knows on this permit, all you're doing is he's waiting on one document to get it. Is they could go down here and they could choose to set a favorite and do an activity on, I probably skipped over it, on documents. And either get an email notification or a push. And email, you understand, you would get an email. What the push is up in this bell. So if, let's just say on this one permit, oh my gosh, a little newsfeed there, is that, say, oh, on this permit, I'm only waiting on one document from the contractor. They can smash the favorite button, hit the push thing, go off in their work. They're off in another work, doing another permit, all of a sudden their bell will get a 1. And it would say to them, hey, JA letter of serviceability has been uploaded for permit B25, blah, 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 blah. They got the document. They go over real quick, boom, approved, right back to what their work was. So you guys have the ability too. I'm waiting forever, sorry Chuck, for this permit to get approved. So you could put a favorite out there and an email notification. Bing bong, it's good. Or inspections. On this permit, I want to know when inspections were performed because I've got my guys at the site and I want to know when they've left that site. And you could set up email notification. I mean, maybe we could look at the future of expanding that to text messages. That's already been some requests. We have to look into what that is all going to entail. That'll be a technology challenge we'll have to overcome, but yes. Again, these themes, as I said, like more of this stuff will be coming, more of this stuff will be notified. It's all about getting that information out and to you guys in good ways. Something else, almost not really to build on that, but that idea of different information. There'll be more searches and stuff coming later that you'll be able to see, but one of the things that we have here at the top button where you're used to searching now by permit number, permit stuff. I thought I could vamp until my options got done, but it looks like that's hanging up a little bit. But what I was going to show you when that comes up, for whatever reason that's holding up a bit, maybe we'll do a refresh on the permit. But we also have the ability in our searching to where you can actually search the site. So when you go up there, if that little search thing is done, maybe we've got some traffic back in the office now slowing us down. But is that when you do that search, is that you'd actually be able to search the site for things to do. Like say apply for a permit, and then that'll take you to the permit screen. Yeah, I wonder if they're doing stuff back in the UAT. I will say, again, I got through most of the demo here before we ran into a little performance bug. So now I feel comfortable just saying that this is our queue environment back at the office, so there could be any number of things happening right now that could be slowing us down. You've got your hand up energetically.
I've got 2 more questions.
Okay.
Number 1, whether this phase or the future phase, will revisions be incorporated into this program, or will we still be doing that separately?
as far as active revisions, like post, oh, this is in this and this is available, go live. And like I said, things look to be slowing down here a little bit. Are you guys seeing that too? But could just be me. Is that what basically you would see is if having that permit up, I don't know what's happening to my machine right now, but basically the problem we have today with those revisions is your status is active, and we try to lock that down. What you're going to see in the new system would be like active, and then parentheses like in review, or active return for corrections. So it's kind of these new little hybrid statuses so they can function in a review. We can put in plan review requirements, we can put in your fees would be on the permit. So everything about that would all be on the permit at that time. Instead of this back and forth email outside invoices, this would all be on the permit and eventually would tell that whole story. And you said you had a second question.
Yes, sir. With regard to the tree mitigation, it seems, the process seems a little bit antiquated at times. Are you going to be able, when you put in the CDN number, to link that to the 10 set?
Yes, and that actually is something we already have today in bid, but maybe given the nature of the interface, you might not have noticed that. But yes, on the on-tree mitigation sites, and let's see, it's all coming up for you guys, right? It's, yeah, something might be happening with Wi-Fi, or maybe we're all on this Wi-Fi right now, and that's taken away a little bit. But we got through most of the demo. Is that yes, you would be able to put in that CDN number, and then that pulls over the tree information today. And then you have the ability where it'll always show you in those columns of what was on the civil plan and then what's for the permit. Because we know that, you know, we might be doing, the civil plan might be for a whole residential subdivision and all the trees that are taken out, but you might be doing a permit for one house. But like I said, next time you're on the bid website, right above that tree grid, there is a little box to put in that civil plan number and hit a button. But like I said, it could just be, this could just be bids interface, you know, that it just kind of hidden up there. But yes, that functionality will exist in the new system as well. Yes?
Escrow balances. Will
Yes.
they be transferred during the soft or hard?
Yes. Your escrow, everything, like I said, across the board, everything that is there today in bid will come over. But a word on escrow balances. Yeah, my site came up, but the little search, it's being weird. So, is that what you have the ability for is that you actually now will be able to create your own escrow deposit transactions online and pay them online. So you do not have to come downtown or mail in a check anymore. And like I said, my performance here had gotten a little bit, there we go. So if we were to use our Pulte home, right? Trying to remember to bring up a profile. Well, I could have done it in a couple ways, but let me click on a permit, we'll go there, and I'll show you that. Yeah, but basically that is something else we were looking to avoid, is that step of having to come downtown, having someone to manually go create a transaction, send you over to text with. All right. We're taking my car or yours to go find whatever that is, so that, yeah, so that's, again, avoid that, right? Because you're looking to put money into your escrow account. Why do you have to come downtown? You can pay online. So, yes.
Is there a fee online?
A fee.
Like a 3% charge to?
The same fees apply that they do today with credit card payments. I guess that would also be the case of an escrow deposit would charge a fee.
That's why we go downtown.
So you can still go downtown. But actually, I mean, I don't know if there is a fee for paying an extra electronic check online, or debit card might be less. But again, those fees are unfortunately out of our control. I mean, if we're up to me, you know, but. Yes, back there, ma'am.
Anything going to change with PST, PCO issues?
So, well, I don't know what issues you might be talking about.
Like right now, we have to take the form downtown and submit it, and then we have to go to the supervisor. They have to check the system to make sure that everything's okay. Issue a submittal, we have to pay it, then we have to go back to them to show them it's paid, so they can actually schedule the inspection.
Well, let me say this without having all the exact information on that, is that what you'd be able to do now is whatever information you need to get, the city might need to get, the transmittals, invoices, documentation, that can all be worked out online. So if it's a matter of, I need this document from you, and even if we're talking post-active, because now you guys can upload your own documents, you'd be able to upload that document, they would be able to approve it, they would be able to create an invoice, you could pay that invoice, then you could schedule the inspection. So again, without, forgive me for not knowing the exact details of that scenario, but I don't see any reason why you guys on a phone call couldn't just work that all back and forth. I'm making you have to keep moving around there. She's getting her money's worth now of having to film me here. No spotlights or anything. We have other questions? Oh, come on.
Each company will still work under one email address, right?
I'm sorry.
Each company will have one email address, right?
Ah,
Work under-
not necessarily. That is up to you.
Okay.
So, if I were to take a look here at Celtic Construction, they happen to be in the room? There. Good name. Appreciate the Celtics, or Celtics. If you're a Boston fan, then no, but if it's the Celtics, then yeah. So if I take a look here at resources. So for this company, we've got these two individuals. Is allow a login. So you can have, if you're a party of one, a company of one, if it's just me, my email address for my company and me as a contractor, I log in, I can do that work. But in this scenario, Kenneth could have his own email address and Michael has his own email address. And they can log in and do work on behalf of the company. But this is all at the discretion of you guys. So today, we know that one thing that is going away, because we don't really see a need for it, and then maybe it'll have to come back, but I don't think so, is that PIN number. To request inspections, that some of you companies have set up a PIN number because you don't want your people requesting inspections before they have the ability to, or before you're ready to. Because you guys have to have one company ID and one company password, the news again. Because you guys have to have, there is only one login today, that PIN number was necessary because if you wanted to let someone do some things but not the others, so forth and so on. But now you would have the ability to where you can have 40 employees and nobody's allowed to log in, or they all have their own logins. The other thing about this system is that we know that you could be doing work as a contractor, but likely everybody in this room owns a home in Jacksonville. So you might be doing stuff as a property owner. Or you all might have the business to go apply for a business license, a COU, any of that kind of stuff. So what our goal here is that your one login would cover what you can do based on what you're trying to do. So you take me, my email address, I have a fake company, Callahan Builders, and I live at 6823 Buffalo. If I log in and I'm going to submit a permit at another address, it's going to put me as the contractor. But if I go submit at my house, it still knows that Chris Callahan is the property owner, so I can submit a permit as myself for my house. But if I'm on another address, I have to be the company. If I then go to apply for a business, it knows me, and then it'll flip over to the business side of what my permissions are and what I have. So yes, your one login should be able to cover anything you would eventually do in the system, but also for contractors, you can have multiple people log in, and now you can clearly see who did what. So an inspection request comes in that you weren't expecting, and it's going to cost you money because the city showed up and you weren't ready. Well, who did this? I don't know. Someone did it online. No, Kenneth did it, and now we can go yell at Kenneth.
Will we be able to see more granular reporting data on time to permit or turnaround or anything like that?
Yes, so again, that's part of the thing with bid and about not really checking that data and not really having that. Because if you think about it, I'm sure most permitting softwares, okay, I'll stop moving, I'm sorry to have to make you keep doing that. Most permitting softwares, again, the age of bid, right, is what was bid's purpose? It was to track your permits so that you could put in permit information, the city could see that permit, back and forth, back and forth. It was not really, I don't think of, conceived at that time, and certainly not as much as the onus has been put on the past 5 years, is the time. Is that I need my permit in 30 days because I have to do this stuff, right? It was just meant as a good, simple tracking solution that we have built upon and built upon and built upon. But when Josh and Chuck came to me several years ago and said, the state has now passed a thing where first submissions have to be out in 30 days, and second submissions have to be out in 10 days, and we need to know that on a plan review thing. And I went, because we don't have history. I can't go back in time and just invent history of when stuff came in. So we kind of had to cobble that on top of it, right? I think all of us in this room know it is a heck of a lot easier to design a room when you haven't built a house yet than it is to actually build a house to do something. Like all these outlets, it's much easier to say, I want 20 outlets in this room when it's on a blueprint, than to come into this room right now and put one more in. That's kind of what the fight we had with bid, is the newer requirements, the new things that we're being asked to do, you know, just couldn't keep up anymore. So now with the new system, yes, we're tracking all that stuff a lot better. But what that means is that data that's coming over, right, that's already in the pipeline, yeah, that might not exactly flow in with the people and the times because, okay, you know, we're just kind of starting. But everything brand new moving forward, yeah, that is going to be tracked a lot better 4 times. And hopefully we don't do any of those 30 minutes or more. You get a free Domino's pizza. Hopefully that keeps us on our times a lot better. Other quick, Chuck, your hand went up for a bit.
I was gonna make a comment about the emails, but right now
Yes.
they have a primary email address, and if they have someone that has permissions and leaves the company, they still have access to that information, whereas with the new system, we can eliminate that.
Ah, that's a good point. What Joe was just pointing out is that, again, by having that one login, that one thing for, if your people know that and they leave your company, they would still have access, as you know, into bid today. But now, again, if we got mad at Kenneth for scheduling that inspection, and we said, you're done, Kenneth, now you would have the ability to come in and just basically remove or undo that login if we had changed it before. So you have that power to manage your people and not have to worry about, Chuck, I just had a bad contractor, I think I just fired him, he's gonna do something. Can you go shut my account down because he's gonna, no, you can do it yourself. Good point, Chuck, thank you. Allow me then just to go back here real quick for a little tapper. So again, these are the dates that we're talking about. Is our soft go live weekend that is coming up on Veterans Day weekend. Is pretty much what you've seen today, a little bit cleaner with that data conversion. And like we said, what we want from you, that go live weekend is the December 16th. But this is what we're going to need from you for that go live. That company registration, get that email set up, verify your company information is looking good, and like I said, play around with the permits. The data you can expect on that day would either be that Friday or Saturday night, whenever it is we fire off that script from the bid database. So really that weekend, that Monday morning, if you will, you would pretty much, I mean, not a lot of work. I do know, actually, let me stop that. There are very hardworking folks in bid that do work over weekends. So, but more or less, the data that you're gonna see on Friday in bid will be the same data you see Monday in bid. That'll be the same data you see Monday in JAXEPICS. So you could, you know, hopefully, if you got in Monday morning, you would look at your dashboard, and you would look at your dashboard. You can almost know what your workday in bid was gonna be is from JAXEPICS that day. So, like I said, that's gonna be those key information, those key dates. I did want to, I saw one more question, overtime question. Yes, sir.
In the soft go live, when you register your company and put in the information, will it go live or do you have to do that again?
Oh, no, that we are gonna hold and we're gonna park that, right? So yeah, that was a good question. The question was, do you have to register again? No, that is what the goal is with that soft registration, is that you guys would come in, you would set those emails, those passwords, all that stuff we need to get, and then we'd be able to tell who came in and what data has changed in our environment for that. And then when we merge in the data from bid, we're also gonna merge in that registration data. So that if you go and register on that soft go live weekend, on go live Monday, you're able to rock and roll and just log in like you were before. Got it? Oh, it's ready.
Will email link be sent to our current email address on our account and bid to the registration soft login, or how do we get notified it's open and where to go?
Well, like I said, is that it's more or less you can, like I said, the information will be coming out in the bulletin. This would be the targeted date, so if you never heard from us again, but you will, this would just be the assumption you can make there. But we are going to be notifying up on the bid website, like I said, signs, the bulletin. But yes, we could look at also maybe trying to see if we can compile all the email addresses and then send out maybe an email blast. But again, that might be a little bit tricky to pull off
So
that.
just go to the bid website and it'll redirect us.
Yeah, we'll have the URLs up there that you can link up on for that. And like I said, call up, I'm sure that Chuck and their people, they're going to be mentioning this over and over again to people. Like, you will hear about it. I guess that would be a thing.
Will design professionals be able to do pre-plan review?
What is pre-plan review?
Before you go all the way down the road with a certain take on code, sometimes you want to get it looked at by an official. And we used to be able to submit for review, pre-plan review?
That's we do planning sessions now, pre-planning sessions, where we go through and do some pre-reviews for you, but not with the system. This is, when you submit it to the EPIC system, you're gonna be submitting documents to be reviewed.
Okay, so just come in for the in-person.
Yeah, we still do planning, 3-4 a day usually.
Now, I mean, I will say as far as that, I mean, that's more of like an inter-office thing to work out. But I will say, if it's anything involving a permit to get things started off and back and forth, have that, communication. And again, that's something else we could also look at with, when we talked about before about those agencies, is I did not really get to address it specifically here. But if I'm going back to my dashboard here, one of my dashboards real quick, going over just picking mechanical permits that are pending, is one thing I also don't like today about our subs is how do you know a sub permit has been approved? It's because someone from mid-staff changed the status to approved. But there's nothing that really says they did the approval, if you will. And there's nothing for us to track in that timing of, hey, when did someone, like I said, do that approval, because it's really just a status change. Oh man, are we slow again? But anyway, if this were to come up, as we saw before with the COJ private provider agencies, what you will see on your sub permits is that you will see an agency requirement that might say something like COJ or bid mechanical, bid plumbing. And those are now the different agencies that are going to be doing those approvals. Now, I say agencies, if it's mechanical, it's going to be Raphael or Ricky, you're going to be doing it. Could be other people from the other agencies, electrical, plumbing, and what have you. But it's a clear way of, hey, this thing is due, we can put it in someone's dashboard, so forth and so on. What that also means is because of the lightweight nature of this application and the way that we have it highly configured, for a small plans review or something like that, what have you, is there's no reason why we couldn't put it up an agency like that. So if you were to submit a permit and say, hey, and again, this is for the future, I don't want to think this is becoming next month, right? But when you have that button up there that says submit, maybe, we put a button that says submit for small plan review. And maybe we route that differently. So it doesn't hit the main intake, it goes to another dashboard somewhere else for a small plan review. But see, this is the kind of things where, again, this was, Josh and Chuck will tell you, this is the kind of thing where they give us the things and then I get going with, what if we did this, what if we did this? And my old manager used to hate that because I would always say yes to everything and we could do that. And then finally I had a moment the other day where I had to stop one of my guys from saying yes in a meeting. And I was like, oh, your mother said, like, oh, I hope you have a kid just like you, so you understand. And now I'm seeing. But, like I said, it's just that as we get in here and really start using this, and this is what I was talking about right there, sliding down nice, is see, now you can see that we've got that reviewer, Raphael Grundy, on this permit. So now you know who's going to be doing your reviewer and when they approve or not approve, right? So mechanical permits today, if I come in here and I were to just do this review, I hope I'm not, man, the slowness in this room. But anyway, is that today, if they're denying your mechanical and they change it back, you have to go look for a comment, bunchy, right? But now they can just do repetitive reviews like we've seen before with concurrency and the other stuff, is now see that, oh, denied here, why, denied here, why, approved, why. There we go, it's coming up, just slow in this room today. But yes, like I was saying, if we were to do not approved, and then, for reasons. You joke, but I'm sure if I looked and bid somewhere, I would find a comment that someone put in just like that. I'll tell you this, that's the funny things you get when we do our data conversion, is what I loved is that on mechanical equipment, under horsepower for one piece of equipment, the person put in yes. So you can see when we're now trying to put fees against horsepower, where we charge a certain amount, you can see how the data, yes, kind of gets in there. But again, I thought that was very clever that yes, my generator has horsepower. So thank you all so much for your time today and for listening to me, and we hope you're as excited as we are